Aliens pleaded for help. They didn't know Deathworlders would arrive Part 1. The cry for aid, the Xylaran sky glowed with colors no human eye had ever seen. Giant crystalline towers reflected the sunlight in rainbow patterns, and the cities seemed to float above the toxic seas below. The air shimmered with energy, and the alien structures pulsed with a quiet hum that filled the entire planet. But beauty could not hide fear. In the Grand Council Hall of Xylaran Prime, the leaders gathered. Their faces were tense, their voices low and urgent. Outside the tall glass-like walls, scout drones circled, scanning the horizon for signs of the enemy. They had already seen the first ships of the Creel, a warlike species that had advanced faster than most in the sector. "The Creel will reach our orbit in hours," said High Counselor Zaya, her tall, translucent figure trembling slightly. "Our defenses will not hold. We cannot stop them alone." Other counselors murmured in agreement, their usual calm replaced by panic. Xylarans were intelligent and advanced, but they were not warriors. Their technology focused on knowledge, science, and art, not battle. Their weapons could fend off minor threats, but the Creel were nothing like minor threats. Outside the council hall, the city trembled as distant explosions shook the ground. Small Creel ships had already begun bombarding the outskirts, testing the defenses. Each blast sent waves of energy across the sea, creating glowing patterns of chaos. Even the strongest towers shook, and the citizens began evacuating in panic. High Counselor Zaya turned to Commander Lyra, a veteran of Xylaran space defense. "How long can we hold them?" she asked, her voice trembling. Lyra's many eyes scanned the data floating before her. "Not long," she said simply. "Their numbers are too great and their weapons bypass our shields. We might survive a few hours, maybe a day if we are lucky. But we will not last beyond that." A heavy silence filled the hall. Xylarans were proud, but pride could not protect them from annihilation. High Counselor Zaya made a decision. "We have one choice," she said. "We send a distress call to the rest of the galaxy. Perhaps allies will hear, perhaps someone will come." Commander Lyra looked at her with concern. "Zaya, we have sent signals before. Many civilizations hear us, but most see us as fragile. They will not risk themselves for us." Zaya's translucent form flickered with anxiety. "We have no choice. We must try. Even a small chance is better than none." The counselors agreed, and the signal was prepared. The Xylarans sent their cry for help through deep space channels, broadcasting across the sector and beyond. The message was clear. "We are under attack. We cannot defend ourselves. Help us, or we will fall." As the message traveled into the void, the Creel fleet continued their approach. Massive ships, black and jagged, moved like shadows across the stars. Their engines burned bright, and their weapons were ready to destroy anything that dared stand against them. Even from orbit, their size and number were intimidating. On the surface of Xylaran Prime, citizens huddled together, watching the sky. Children clung to their parents, unaware of the full danger, while elders whispered prayers for protection. The world they had built with knowledge, art, and science now seemed fragile, as though it could shatter with the first real strike. Commander Lyra stood at the command center, her many arms moving quickly as she tried to organize defenses. Small fighter ships scrambled into the skies, and ground-based energy turrets hummed with power. But even as she prepared, she knew it might be pointless. The Creel were relentless, and Xylarans were not made for war. In the distance, a faint glow appeared in the void, a signal echoing back from deep space. The Xylarans watched with hope, their hearts lifting slightly. Maybe someone had heard their plea, maybe help was coming. But the signal was not a fleet rushing to their aid. It was something far stranger. Far across the sector, in an uncharted part of space, the message reached human scouts. Humans were known across the galaxy as Deathworlders, creatures who survived and thrived in worlds no other species could endure. On their home planets, firestorms, acid rains, freezing nights, and toxic skies had trained them to adapt, to think fast, and to fight when necessary. Most civilizations considered humans fragile, weak, and slow. Few dared to challenge them directly, but humans were not weak. Commander Hale, sitting in the bridge of the scout ship Iron Wolf, heard the Xylaran message crackle through the communications system. His brow furrowed. "They're asking for help," he asked, scanning the readings. "They're in trouble?" "Yes," said Lieutenant Sana, his communications officer. "It's urgent. They are under attack by the Creel. Their defenses are failing. They sound desperate." Hale leaned back in his chair, studying the message. He was human, grown on a planet that could kill a man in a day if he was careless. He had survived ice storms, acid rains, and hostile wildlife that could crush a grown human. He knew what danger was, and he knew how to act. "We go," he said simply. "Set a course for Xylaran Prime, full speed." Sana's eyes widened. "Commander, you realize what you're saying? The Creel are massive. They outgun us 10-1. We can't fight them directly." Hale smiled faintly. "We don't need to fight directly. We adapt, we survive. We turn the fight to our advantage, trust me." The human crew worked quickly, preparing their ship for the journey. Unlike the Xylarans, humans did not fear harsh environments. Their ships could survive anything: asteroid fields, energy storms, debris clouds. They had learned to thrive where others would die. Back on Xylaran Prime, the sky darkened as Creel ships entered orbit. Their weapons glowed red as they targeted the city below. Citizens screamed and ran, energy shields flaring as turrets tried to intercept the incoming fire. Explosions lit up the sky as small defense ships engaged the enemy, but they were hopelessly outnumbered. High Counselor Zaya watched through the viewing dome, tears forming in her eyes. "We will not survive this," she whispered. "We are too weak." Commander Lyra gritted her teeth. Perhaps we are not as weak as we think. The signal has been sent. Maybe someone will come. Maybe." Her words trailed off as another explosion shook the city. A tower collapsed, sending shards of crystalline glass into the toxic seas below. Civilians screamed, and the smell of burning ozone filled the air. In the midst of chaos, a strange feeling passed over the Xylarans, a sense that they were not entirely alone. Far beyond the stars, someone was listening. Far beyond the Creel fleet, someone was moving. The humans in the Iron Wolf approached the Xylaran system at incredible speed, navigating the asteroid fields and radiation belts that shielded the planet from prying eyes. They did not rush blindly. They calculated, adapted, and prepared. Every move was precise, every decision based on skill honed over decades of surviving the deadliest worlds in the galaxy. Hale watched the approaching planet, noting the explosions and fires across its surface. "They are alive," he said softly. "They are fighting, but they cannot last long without help." Sana nodded. "Commander, this will be dangerous. The Creel have massive fleets. They will destroy anything in their way." Hale smiled faintly again. "Let them come. They will see what humans can do." As they moved closer, the Creel noticed the faint shadows of the approaching human ships. They paused, scanning. In their arrogance, they assumed the humans were insignificant, a minor annoyance in the battlefield. But they were wrong. Far below, the Xylarans watched as small ships, fast, dark, and dangerous, appeared near the edge of the planet's orbit. They moved with purpose, circling the Creel fleet, analyzing weaknesses. The Xylarans could barely believe their eyes. Hope sparked within them, fragile but bright. High Counselor Zaya whispered, "Could it be help?" Commander Lyra nodded, though doubt still lingered. "It is not over yet, but perhaps we may survive." On the human bridge, Hale made his final preparations. "We enter orbit. Shields up, weapons ready. Let's see how they react to Deathworlders." And far across the stars, the Creel ships began to move again, unaware that the tide was about to turn. They had assumed the Xylarans were weak. They had assumed no one would come. They had assumed humans were harmless. Assumptions were dangerous. The first part of the story ended with the humans approaching Xylaran Prime, a storm of metal and courage ready to challenge the Creel, while the Xylarans watched in awe and disbelief. Their fate was no longer sealed, but the battle was just beginning. The galaxy, silent for so long, was about to witness something no one had expected. Humans were coming. And they were unstoppable. The Iron Wolf cut through space with incredible speed, leaving trails of shimmering energy behind. Its dark hull reflected distant starlight, and the human crew moved with calm precision. Every instrument on the bridge glowed softly, showing the status of shields, engines, and weapons. Commander Hale stood at the center, his gaze fixed on Xylaran Prime. Below the planet, chaos reigned. Creel ships fired relentless beams of energy at the Xylaran cities. Explosions shook the crystalline towers, sending shards of glass-like material spiraling into the toxic seas. Civilians ran in every direction, some trying to hide in tunnels and vaults, others frozen in fear. Xylaran fighter ships scrambled to intercept the Creel attackers, but they were hopelessly outnumbered. High above, Commander Hale studied the battlefield. "They are desperate," he said quietly, "and that makes them dangerous." Lieutenant Sana, his communications officer, adjusted a control panel. Commander, the Creel are scanning the system. They've detected us. Hale nodded. Good, let them see us. Let them underestimate us. That is the first mistake they will make. The Creel fleet shifted formation, massive black ships moving like predatory beasts. They assumed humans were small and weak. A single human scout ship could not possibly threaten them. Their arrogance was a mistake many civilizations had made before. On Xylaran Prime, High Counselor Zaya and Commander Lyra watched the distant lights in the sky. Are those humans? Zaya whispered, her voice trembling. Lyra's many eyes widened. Yes, they are approaching fast. I have never seen ships move like that. Humans, they are different. The humans did not slow down. The Iron Wolf and its smaller escort ships moved through asteroid fields with ease, twisting and turning where sensors said it was impossible. Energy storms, radiation clouds, and debris fields did not slow them. Every obstacle became an advantage. Humans thrived where others would perish. Commander, Sana said nervously, the Creel are preparing a blockade. They intend to trap us before we reach the planet. Hale's lips curved into a small smile. Then we adapt. That is what humans do. The Creel fleet moved to intercept, forming a wall of dark metal and energy shields. Their weapons glowed red, ready to fire. They assumed a direct confrontation would destroy the humans immediately. Hale activated the Iron Wolf stealth systems. The ship shimmered and became almost invisible to Creel's sensors. Smaller human craft spread out, flanking the blockade from different angles. The Creel could not understand what they were seeing. The humans were too fast, too clever. Xylaran citizens looked up, barely daring to hope. Could they survive? One asked softly. High Counselor Zaya shook her head. I do not know, but perhaps there is a chance. Hale's voice cut through the comm system to the human fleet. Listen carefully. We do not fight like the Xylarans or the Creel. We do not stand and meet them head-on. We use the environment, we use the element of surprise, and we strike where they are weakest. Follow my lead. Trust your instincts. The human ships moved in perfect coordination, splitting into multiple small groups. Some passed through asteroid fields, using the rocks as cover. Others approached from angles the Creel never considered, striking sensors and weapon arrays before disappearing again. The first contact came quickly. Small human craft fired precision shots at the Creel, not trying to destroy the massive ships but to disable shields and disrupt formation. Explosions lit the void, and the Creel were thrown into confusion. Their massive fleet was not used to enemies who could strike and vanish without warning. Commander Hale watched carefully. They are adapting, he said. Good, now we push further. One human squadron targeted the Creel flagship. Hale knew it was risky, but striking at the head could cause the fleet to panic. The squadron weaved through a storm of laser fire, dodging shots that would have destroyed ordinary ships. The Creel were strong, but the humans were smarter. Below on Xylaran Prime, the Council watched the battle. I cannot believe it, said Lyra. They move like shadows, striking without fear. Humans, they are remarkable. High Counselor Zaya's voice trembled with hope. Perhaps they are the allies we prayed for. The humans made their first strike on the Creel flagship. A small strike team boarded it in a daring maneuver, entering through maintenance hatches too small for Xylaran or Creel ships. Once inside, they moved quickly, planting charges on critical systems. On the bridge of the Creel flagship, alarms blared. Intruders detected, shouted the Creel commander. They are humans, eliminate them immediately. The humans moved with calm precision. Every step was calculated. Every action minimized risk and maximized effect. Within minutes, they had disabled the main weapon systems, causing massive disruptions across the fleet. Hale watched through sensors as the Creel fleet fell into disarray. Smaller ships collided, shields overloaded, and energy beams struck other ships accidentally. Chaos spread like wildfire. Sana's voice was filled with excitement. Commander, they are panicking. The flagship systems are down. Hale nodded. Good, maintain pressure, keep them off balance, never give them a chance to recover. The Xylarans watched, their eyes wide with disbelief. They are winning, whispered Lyra, but how? They are so few. Zaya's gaze followed the human ships as they darted through space. It is not numbers, she said softly. It is courage, it is intelligence. They are humans. The Creel fleet struggled to respond. They tried to regroup, but the humans were always one step ahead. Every move was anticipated, every weakness exploited. The Creel had never fought a species like this. Every battle tactic they knew was useless. On Xylaran Prime, civilians cheered quietly, not fully understanding the battle but sensing a shift. Hope had returned. The despair that had filled the planet for days was replaced with cautious optimism. Maybe they could survive. Maybe they would live. Hale and his team did not pause. They moved from target to target, striking where the Creel were weakest. Shields went down, weapons malfunctioned, and the enemy fleet began to scatter. The first major engagement ended with the Creel retreating from the immediate orbit of Xylaran Prime. The planet was still damaged, but the cities had survived. Energy beams still struck the outskirts, but the humans had turned the tide. Commander Hale contacted High Counselor Zaya through long-range communications. "We have bought you time," he said simply. "Prepare your defenses. We will remain in orbit and continue to assist, but you must act quickly." Zaya's voice trembled with gratitude. "Thank you, humans. We did not believe anyone could help, but you have saved us today. We are in your debt." Hale's expression remained calm. "Do not think of it as debt. Think of it as understanding. Humans survive, that is all." On the ground, Xylaran citizens began to repair damaged buildings and restore energy shields. Soldiers and technicians worked side by side, inspired by the humans' courage. For the first time in days, they felt hope. The Creel commanders, however, were furious. They had underestimated humans. They had assumed fragility and weakness, only to find intelligence, adaptability, and daring. Plans they had thought would work perfectly had failed. Their pride was wounded and their fleet was scattered. In the shadows of the outer systems, more human ships approached. Hale had called reinforcements from nearby patrols. Even more humans were arriving, each crew trained to adapt, to fight in impossible situations, and to think creatively in battle. Sana looked at the approaching ships. "Commander, they are coming, more humans. The Creel won't know what hit them." Hale nodded. "Let them come, we are not done yet." Meanwhile, the Xylarans sent their first messages of thanks to neighboring civilizations, explaining that humans had arrived. Other species listened with astonishment. Many had believed humans weak, incapable of fighting in space or surviving in dangerous worlds. Now those beliefs were crumbling. High Counselor Zaya addressed the council and the citizens. "Humans have arrived. They have shown us courage, skill, and intelligence. They are different from anything we imagined. If we survive, it will be because of them." Lyra added quietly, "Perhaps the galaxy has underestimated humans for too long. Perhaps they are the strongest allies we could hope for." The Creel, regrouping in the outer rim, prepared for another strike. They would not admit defeat. They believed victory was inevitable. But they had made a fatal mistake. They had assumed humans would flee. They had assumed humans were weak, and humans did not flee. Hale's team prepared for the next engagement. "We fight smart," he said to his squad. "We strike where they do not expect. We protect the Xylarans. And we survive. That is what humans do." As the sun set over Xylaran Prime, painting the sky with colors even more brilliant than before, the first signs of recovery appeared. Buildings were reinforced, turrets were reactivated, and citizens dared to walk in the streets. But the battle was far from over. The Creel were still a threat, and the humans had only just begun to show what they could do. The first human strike had changed the course of the war. Where the Xylarans had seen despair, there was now hope. Where the Creel had assumed victory, there was now fear. And far above in the quiet of space, the Deathworlders prepared for what would come next. They were humans, they were fearless, and they would not fail. Part 3, Ambush at Xylaran Spaceport. Xylaran Prime shivered under the first rays of its twin suns. The cities, though damaged, glimmered like jewels against the dark clouds of smoke rising from shattered towers. Energy shields flickered across rooftops, keeping civilians safe from stray debris and lingering Creel attacks. But even as hope filled the hearts of the Xylarans, danger loomed closer than ever. The Creel, furious at the humans' initial strike, had regrouped. They were determined to destroy the planet's spaceport and crush the newly inspired Xylaran forces. High above, the human fleet hung silently in orbit. Commander Hale watched the planet below, his eyes calm and calculating. "They are planning an ambush," he said softly. "The Creel want to destroy the spaceport and end this fight quickly. We cannot let them." Lieutenant Sana adjusted the tactical display. "The Creel have set traps in orbit, energy nets, minefields, and cloaked ships. They want to lure us into a kill zone." Hale nodded. "Then we fight smarter. We adapt. Remember, we are humans. We survive where others fail. Let's move." The human ships split into multiple squads. One squad moved to the upper orbit, drawing the Creel attention while the main force circled lower, invisible in stealth mode. Every move was precise, calculated, and designed to confuse the enemy. Far below, Xylaran engineers and soldiers prepared the spaceport for evacuation and defense. Though terrified, they worked quickly under human guidance. Humans had shared strategies, ways to maximize defensive weapons, reroute power to shields, and create safe zones for civilians. High Counselor Zaya watched the preparations from the command center. "These humans, they are not like anyone we have ever seen," she said. "Even their tactics, they are brilliant," Commander Lyra nodded. "We thought we were weak, but they show us courage and intelligence. Perhaps humans are the allies we truly need." Meanwhile, the Creel fleet approached. Massive ships glided through the orbital debris, their energy weapons glowing ominously. They assumed the humans were trapped in the spaceport corridor and expected an easy victory. Hale activated a communication channel to the Xylaran command center. "Prepare your defenses, but do not engage unless necessary. Follow our lead. Trust us." Zaya's voice was firm despite the fear in her eyes. "We will do as you say. Protect our people. That is all we ask." The first strike began as the Creel fired on the Xylaran orbital defenses. Beams of red energy tore through shields, hitting towers and storage facilities. Civilians screamed, and the Xylaran forces tried to respond, but the Creel's numbers were overwhelming. From above, the humans acted. Small squads of fighters weaved between the Creel ships, firing precision shots at critical systems. Each strike was calculated to create confusion without risking unnecessary loss. Shields went down, weapons malfunctioned, and the Creel were forced to adjust. Hale's voice came over the fleet comms. "Divide their attention, strike fast, vanish before they can react, use the terrain, debris, and every obstacle in your favor." The Xylarans watched in amazement as the human ships darted through asteroid fragments and space debris, moving faster than any alien fighter could follow. Explosions flared around the Creel, not destroying them completely, but disrupting formations and creating openings for more attacks. A squadron of human fighters approached the Creel flagship again. Unlike the first strike, this time they aimed to disable the ship's engines rather than its weapons. The human pilots moved with perfect coordination, striking weak points and then retreating before the Creel could counterattack. Inside the Creel flagship, alarms blared. "Humans again," shouted a Creel officer. "How can they strike so quickly? They are too small, too weak, they cannot survive in space." Hale smiled faintly. "That is the mistake they always make. Humans survive where others cannot. That is why we win." On the ground, Xylaran citizens began to rally. Soldiers, technicians, and civilians alike followed human instructions, activating shields, repairing turrets, and directing traffic away from danger zones. For the first time, they were not helpless. Humans had given them courage. The Creel attempted a flanking maneuver, sending fast attack ships to surround the human fleet. Hale anticipated the move. "Split into teams, lead them into the minefields we prepared. Do not fight head-on." The Creel ships, lured into the hidden minefields, triggered explosions that disabled several of their vessels. Panic spread through the Creel command structure. They had assumed humans would flee or fight poorly. Now they were facing intelligence, planning, and adaptability. Meanwhile, another human squadron entered the spaceport corridor. Using stealth and speed, they disabled energy turrets and cleared pathways for civilian evacuation. Xylaran ships followed closely behind, guided by human instructions. High Counselor Zaya watched the operation, her hope growing. "They are saving our people even under fire. They are extraordinary." Commander Lyra, adjusting tactical displays, added quietly, "Humans are not just allies. They are a force unlike any other." The Creel underestimated them, and they will pay. The Creel flagship, desperate to regain control, launched a massive energy pulse aimed at the humans. Hale anticipated the attack. Evasive maneuvers. All units split into smaller groups, used the debris for cover. The human ships twisted and turned, weaving through the energy beams. Some ships used nearby asteroids as shields, while others drew fire away from weaker vessels. Within moments, the Creel pulse struck empty space, wasting its destructive power. Sana, monitoring the battlefield, said in awe, "Commander, they cannot believe what they are seeing. Their pulse missed completely." Hale nodded. "Good, now we strike. Focus on the engines, disable their mobility." The human squads targeted engine cores, using precise shots and boarding parties to sabotage from inside. Explosions rocked the Creel fleet as engines failed one by one. Ships spun out of control, colliding with debris and each other. Chaos spread like wildfire. Xylaran soldiers cheered quietly. They had never seen such courage and precision. Where once they felt helpless, now they felt inspired. Humans were more than allies, they were a living example of hope and bravery. In the midst of battle, Hale led a boarding team onto the Creel flagship. Moving through narrow maintenance corridors, they avoided detection and planted charges on key systems. The Creel crew, expecting overwhelming force, were caught off guard by the small, precise human team. Inside the bridge of the flagship, alarms rang continuously. Creel officers barked orders, but confusion reigned. Their systems were failing and panic spread. The humans had turned a seemingly hopeless situation into a battlefield of chaos, and the Creel did not know how to respond. Hale's team exited the flagship just as the charges detonated. Explosions tore through engines and critical systems, leaving the Creel flagship crippled. Debris scattered across space and smaller Creel ships scrambled to regroup. Below, Xylaran citizens looked up at the sky in disbelief. "They did it! They are winning!" whispered one child. High Counselor Zaya turned to Lyra. "Humans, they are not just helping us. They are changing the battle itself." Commander Lyra nodded. "They are showing us the strength we never realized we had. Their courage inspires us to fight, not flee." The Creel, now disorganized and demoralized, attempted a retreat. Smaller ships tried to escape, but the humans were relentless. Using stealth, speed, and tactical brilliance, they harassed the fleeing vessels, ensuring that the Creel could not easily regroup. Hale's voice echoed across the fleet. "Do not let them recover. Keep pressure on. Show them that humans do not give up, and neither will the Xylarans." As the sun set over Xylaran Prime, the first signs of recovery appeared. Civilians returned to the streets, repairing damaged buildings and clearing debris. Xylaran fighters, now inspired by the humans' bravery, reactivated defensive turrets and coordinated patrols. For the first time in days, hope was not just a dream, it was real. High Counselor Zaya addressed the council. "We have survived because of humans. They came when we were weakest, and they have shown us what courage and intelligence can accomplish. Perhaps the galaxy has underestimated humans for too long." Commander Lyra added, "They are not only fighting for us, they are teaching us to fight for ourselves. That is more valuable than any weapon." Far in orbit, Hale looked at the scattered Creel fleet. "They will not give up, they never do, but neither will we. Humans adapt, humans survive, humans win." Sana smiled faintly. "Commander, the Xylarans will never forget this day." Hale's expression remained calm. "They will remember what humans can do. That is enough." As night fell on Xylaran Prime, the humans maintained their positions in orbit, guarding the planet, preparing for the next wave. The battle was far from over, but the first great victory had been won. For the Xylarans, it was a day of hope and wonder. For the Creel, it was a day of fear and confusion. And for the humans, it was another day proving what they always had known. They were the most adaptable, fearless, and unstoppable force in the galaxy. The ambush had failed. The spaceport remained intact. And humans had shown, without a doubt, that they were not to be underestimated. The galaxy was watching. And for the first time, many species realized that when humans arrived, no enemy was safe. Xylaran Prime was quiet for the first time in days, but the calm was fragile. Smoke rose from damaged buildings, and scattered fires still burned in the city outskirts. Citizens worked tirelessly to repair defenses, clear debris, and care for the wounded. The human fleet remained in orbit, silent shadows above the planet, ready to strike again. Commander Hale stood on the bridge of the Iron Wolf, watching the remnants of the Creel fleet retreat into the outer rim. "They are regrouping," he said quietly. "They will return. We cannot let them recover." Lieutenant Sana tapped the tactical display. "Commander, their fleet is fragmented. Some ships are damaged, others are slow. If we strike carefully, we can cripple them completely." Hale nodded. "Then we strike smart. Remember, this is not just about firepower. This is about intelligence, courage, and precision. That is how humans win." Below, High Counselor Zaya and Commander Lyra watched the human ships in orbit. "They are planning another attack," Lyra said. "I have never seen such coordination. Humans, they are unlike anything we imagined." Zaya nodded. "They do not fight like the Creel. They adapt. They survive. Perhaps they are the most dangerous species in the galaxy for anyone who underestimates them. The humans prepared their strategy carefully. Small squads would infiltrate the remaining Creel ships, disable engines, sabotage weapons, and create chaos. Larger ships would use debris fields and the planet's orbit to outmaneuver enemy vessels. Every move was planned with precision, every action designed to minimize risk while maximizing effect. The first strike team moved toward a damaged Creel frigate. Using stealth fields, they approached undetected. Within moments, they were inside the ship, moving silently through narrow corridors, avoiding patrols. Human adaptability allowed them to navigate the alien ship with ease, finding weaknesses and planting charges in critical systems. On the flagship, the Creel commander was unaware of the infiltration. Alarms blared as systems failed one by one, but the crew struggled to respond. Humans had not attacked directly, they had struck from within, and the result was devastating. Engines faltered, weapons went offline, and the Creel ships began to drift in space. Hale monitored the situation. "Good, keep pressure. Focus on disruption, not destruction. We want them confused, afraid, and demoralized." Meanwhile, another human squadron targeted the Creel command network. They hacked into communications, feeding false orders and creating chaos. The Creel ships began attacking one another, unsure of who was friend or foe. Human ingenuity turned the enemy's strength into weakness. Sana watched the displays in awe. "Commander, they are falling apart. The Creel cannot organize properly. Our plan is working perfectly." Hale's lips curved into a small smile. "Humans do not fight like other species. That is why we win." On Xylaran Prime, the citizens looked up as energy beams streaked across space. The sky was alive with light and movement, but it was no longer frightening. For the first time, they saw hope. Humans were turning the battle in their favor. High Counselor Zaya addressed the council and citizens. "Look at them. The humans are not only saving us, they are teaching us courage, strategy, and hope. Perhaps one day we can fight like them." Commander Lyra adjusted defensive systems and coordinated with human teams. "We are learning from the best," she said quietly. "Humans are showing us that intelligence and bravery can overcome even the strongest enemies." The Creel, desperate to regain control, launched another strike. This time they aimed for the human command ship, hoping to end the battle by taking out the leader. But Hale anticipated it. Evasive maneuvers, split into smaller units, used the debris for cover. The Creel beams passed harmlessly through space, striking empty fields and drifting wreckage. Human ships darted in and out of shadows, using obstacles to hide and strike again. Every attack from the Creel was countered before it could succeed. A daring human team boarded a Creel dreadnought next. They moved silently, disabling shields and weapon systems from inside. The Creel officers could not understand how a small group could bypass their defenses so easily. Humans had mastered infiltration, adaptability, and courage beyond measure. On the planet, Xylaran soldiers coordinated with human officers to strike remaining Creel ships from the ground. Energy turrets targeted disabled engines and weapon arrays, maximizing damage while minimizing risk. The combined effort of humans and Xylarans created a synergy the Creel could not counter. Hale communicated with all teams. "Focus on confusion, fear, and disruption. Keep them guessing, make them doubt every decision. That is how humans win battles that seem impossible." Sana monitored the Creel fleet. "Commander, they are panicking. Ships are firing on one another. Orders are being ignored. The morale of the Creel is collapsing." Hale nodded. "Good. Humans do not fight for glory. We fight for survival and victory. That is why no one can predict us." Inside the Creel flagship, the commander struggled to maintain control. Systems failed, crews panicked, and attacks from hidden humans spread chaos. Every plan they had prepared had failed. Their arrogance, which assumed humans were weak, had blinded them to reality. Hale led a small boarding team onto the Creel flagship again. They moved with precision, planting charges on engine cores and navigation systems. The Creel officers were too distracted to stop them. Within minutes, critical systems failed, leaving the massive ship adrift and helpless. Below, Xylaran citizens watched energy explosions and ships spinning in orbit. They are winning?" asked one elder softly. Zaya nodded, tears forming in her eyes. "Humans, they are showing us what courage and intelligence can do. They are extraordinary." Lyra added quietly, "And they are teaching us that we are not as weak as we believed. Humans inspire more than fear, they inspire hope. The Creel, now demoralized and confused, tried to retreat, but humans did not let them escape easily. Using stealth, precision strikes, and coordinated attacks, human squads disabled the remaining ships. Engines failed, weapons malfunctioned, and Creel vessels collided with debris or drifted helplessly in space. Hale communicated across the fleet. Keep them disoriented, protect Xylaran Prime, show them humans do not yield. The planet below, though scarred, began to recover. Citizens rebuilt damaged buildings, repaired energy shields, and restored communications. Soldiers and technicians, inspired by humans, worked faster and more efficiently than ever before. For the first time, Xylarans did not feel helpless. They had hope. High Counselor Zaya addressed the citizens. We have survived because of humans. They arrived when we were weakest and have shown us courage, strategy, and strength. Perhaps the galaxy has underestimated humans for too long. Commander Lyra added, they do not fight like others. They adapt, they think, and they endure. Humans are not just allies, they are a force unlike any other. In orbit, Hale observed the remaining Creel fleet. They will not give up, he said, but neither will we. Humans survive, humans adapt, humans win, Sana smiled. Commander, Xylarans will never forget this day. Hale nodded. They will remember what humans are capable of. That is enough. As night fell on Xylaran Prime, the human fleet maintained vigilance, guarding the planet and preparing for any remaining attacks. The Creel had been beaten back, but the war was not over. Yet the first great victory had been achieved. Humans had turned the tide. Where despair had filled Xylaran hearts, hope now burned brightly. Where fear had dominated, courage now inspired. The Creel were no longer confident. Their arrogance had been shattered. They had underestimated humans, and now they faced the consequences. On the ground, Xylaran citizens repaired their homes, rebuilt defensive positions, and cautiously stepped into the streets. Soldiers and engineers coordinated with humans in orbit, learning strategies, observing tactics, and gaining confidence. Zaya turned to Lyra. Humans are not only saving us, they are teaching us how to survive, how to fight, and how to hope. That is more than any weapon could do. Lyra nodded quietly. Perhaps the galaxy will never be the same again. Humans are changing everything. Hale watched the planet below, his expression calm but determined. The Creel will return, they always do, but humans will be ready. We survive, adapt, and overcome. That is our way. Sana, watching the scattered enemy fleet, added softly, Commander, no one will forget this. The Xylarans, the Creel, everyone will remember humans. Hale's voice was steady. Good, let them remember, because humans do not just survive, humans endure. Humans fight, and humans win. As the twin suns of Xylaran Prime set, painting the sky in brilliant colors, the first true signs of recovery were visible. Buildings were repaired, shields were restored, and citizens began to move freely once again. But above, in orbit, the humans knew this was only a beginning. The Creel would return, and the next battle would be even greater. Yet humans did not fear. Humans never feared. And for the Xylarans, watching from below, the Deathworlders had become legends. They had come. They had fought, and they had turned the tide.